All righty, here we go. Episode 2. We are back. This is the second episode of Marketing Magic. I'm Ben, and this is Greg. And we're going to jump right into it this week. We got some great topics to just kind of hit through. So without further ado, we will just jump right into these, if that sounds good, Greg.
Let's do it.
All righty. So first up, I have uh, this is going to be for the people who are kind of maybe more getting started. And that is tips for people who are just hearing about this online money thing and they want to kind of jump in. What do they do? Or what we can even get into what model makes sense to start with, or what first steps so they can start, making some dollars online and kind of get into this world.
Absolutely. And I know that you and I have both been in this world long enough that it's hard to distill that down because there's a lot of pieces. But I think one of the things that's critical is, I mean, there's a lot of templates out there about how to do this in different ways. And I think it's important to just pick one and then get started, like get doing it so that you can learn. And a good example, this podcast that we're doing, we were just chatting a few minutes ahead of time before we started recording today. And that first episode, like we just recorded it, no editing. We threw it out there, no thumbnail. Like we were just off the cuff. There's no script. It's not like we're optimizing for a YouTube video. You know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah.
not following the YouTube video, build a big channel playbook. We just got going because we know we can fix all that crap later.
Yeah. And that's probably the biggest stumbling point to the business thing is there's so much on your mind. There's so many questions and there's so many doubts that you'll want to answer those questions like before you do anything. And it's really the other way around.
Yeah.
So it's like that thing where it's way easier to steer a car, like when it's moving. Like if you're trying to answer those questions, like you won't have any data to answer those questions. So I want to make this super like, bring this back down. What does that look like? So for me and for my story, the thing that actually kind of started to like bring like actual money in was when I doubled down on copywriting, which most of the people watching this will know what that is. Freelance copywriting, writing content and copy for businesses, which they will pay for. Even at the start, you're going to be like, who's going to pay me? Like, am I worth this? It's like everyone starts that way. So you're going to have that. But then you can really I tell people that you can kind of get good enough, like, in like a month or maybe less if you've got, some get after it kind of spirit. You read a few of these books, a few of these resources, we can link stuff. But yeah, for me, like I started to realize at a certain point because I waffled back and forth and it was like a year and a half before I actually started to make traction. But like at the end of the day, it's reaching out to people and pitching your service. So like if
Yeah.
that's not happening, I think that's a great sort of metric. You're like, am I putting an offer in front of someone, which means like a call like this or an email or a DM where you're like, hey, I'd like to do this for you, or like even if it's not selling something yet, even if it's just the conversation, if none of those things are happening, like you can't get to like the actual money part. So you got to learn some of this stuff or pick your skill first, but like the action has to happen.
Absolutely. And I also want to point out, again, there's different models that you can use to build a business where you can make money online. And Ben, you and I have both done, like we both actively do different models, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of the people who know you and who know me are in the e-commerce world.
Mhm.
And what I'll say is building an e-commerce brand is one of the best ways that you can like make significant, like you can become wealthy doing that in a couple of years.
Mhm.
But it's not a good way to make money fast. It's not a good way to make money now because all the money you make, you got to roll into more inventory, more marketing. And a lot of people who are running $1 million businesses, like that money is in the business. They can't take it out without hurting the
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's a really cool long-term strategy. But the people who I work with in e-commerce, they typically do best when they don't need to take the money out. So that means they've got to have some other money sitting on the side, either coming in from a different activity or a job or a different model, something like that, or they got money in the bank. So
Yep.
for people who are just starting out, I think what makes the most sense is what you just touched on. Learn a high value skill,
Mhm.
which you can learn a high value skill watching YouTube videos and getting some You don't have to buy an expensive course. There's cheap
Yep.
courses that teach you what you need to do, and then do it. Like,
Mhm.
go pitch people, offer to work for them for free
Yep.
at first to get some testimonials and reviews. And then the better you get, the more you charge,
Yeah. And
you know?
and this can happen fairly quickly. It's real, like it's not a scam. Like there's that, obviously if you're just getting started, like there's that belief that you can't actually do it. You 100% can. And to your point, yes, building a brand is awesome. It's great to even have that goal if you want to do that. For getting started, selling a skill is the way to get some of that cash flow going, and that's only gonna help your other endeavors later on.
Yeah.
And here's a great example: the copywriter who he had a bit of journalism experience, but then he kind of discovered this online world, wanted to get into it, is Peter, who's done some work for you and for me. This guy liked journalism, thought that was going to be his path, kind of discovered this copywriting thing and really went after it. And I don't know his exact timeline, but I do know that from early in the spring, he quit his job without too much going on in terms of clients. He didn't have a big social media following or anything like that. But he started reaching out to people like, I mean, like me, who was doing something similar, putting himself out there and then really pursuing the skill. And, and I knew he was pitching people as well. And when you do that, opportunities will come to you. It can be a grind for sure, but opportunities will come to you. And I know that he's really started to make a go of this to the point where, this is his gig now. He's not working a side job. He's getting paid to write people emails and copy. So it can happen.
Absolutely. But you got to take the first step.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's keep it rolling here. The next one is kind of maybe more for the ecom people, and I think this is kind of a fun question, uh, because a lot of people can like relate or have their own opinion on this if they run a brand or are starting a brand. And that's like, what's harder to get from 0 to 5K, like your first 5K in sales, or from 5K to 50K? And there's
Yeah.
kind of a lot going on there, but I think it's two different pieces of the business that are kind of worth like highlighting if you're starting out with ecom. So maybe like you can give your opinion on that maybe, and then we'll just break
Mhm.
down some of the what's going on.
Yeah, there's a few different ways to look at that. But I think the mental hurdle of getting from 0 to 1 is the hardest thing. Like, getting from 0 to your first sale is the hardest thing,
Yeah.
right? And it's because you have to develop the skill set, right? You have to know how to put together enough pieces of the puzzle that you can go and sell something.
Mhm.
And you need to have you need to know what to sell. You need to know who to sell it to, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to learn. But once you get all that figured out, like getting from 1 to 5, assuming the product doesn't suck,
Mhm.
it's inevitable. It's a matter of time. It's like you'll get there as long as you don't quit.
Mhm.
Same thing, getting from 5 to 50. It's not a question of if you'll get from 5 to 50. Again, assuming you've got a good product and you've got people who want it, it's just a matter of how long it takes and then what skills we are learning and deploying. That determines how fast we move, not
Yeah.
necessarily whether or not we get there.
Yeah.
So I that's like the key piece, because that startup phase is so freaking hard and it can be very demoralizing. But people who are serious about it, it's like the only thing you have to do to win is to not quit,
Mhm.
right? Like, again, you've got to learn, you've got to adapt and be executing every day. You can't like sit back. It's not going to happen without your effort.
Mhm.
But once you've got something moving, once you've got some momentum, assuming you don't, cause a meltdown by making a huge mistake or something, it's inevitable that you get from 5 to 50.
Yeah. And I'm going to agree with you because obviously so much goes on from that 0 to 5 point. And those numbers are a little bit arbitrary, but the reason I kind of put them in there is because um, like if you get to that 50 or sorry, if you get to that 5, which is roughly speaking 100 customers, I think, if you've got $50 an order or something like that. If you've got 100 customers, like if you're able to do that, it is pretty inevitable that you're going to get to 50 and then, potentially 50K a month, like fairly soon.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that happens is because you've got something that works. You're still establishing, what channel or what ads you're going to use, but you do have a product and you do have an audience and people are buying it.
Yeah.
Like it's a big deal. Like getting 10 sales is still a big deal, but that still might just be family and three of your friends.
Hmm.
Getting, over 20, you're like, okay, this is something. If you get to 100 sales, like you've got that fire that you can pour gas on. And it's not easy, but that is inevitable that it will go to that next point. So yeah, I totally agree with you. There's a lot going on in that 0 to 5, but like if you aim at that, then if you can not give up before that, then you're probably going to get to that 50 and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good point. If you can sell to 100 strangers,
Yep.
that's a good milestone.
Yeah. And then with that comes the reviews, it comes more feedback that can be
Right.
rolled into your marketing. So we'll get into details on maybe that 0 to 1 or that 0 to 5K on the next one, but just know that if you can get there, the rest is going to happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next up, I have and this is maybe kind of on the same topic sort of, but when does it make sense for people to buy traffic? And
Mhm.
what that means obviously is a paid media channel, Facebook ads, Google ads are kind of maybe two of the big ones, but there's other types of paid traffic. And this is not just for ecom though. This is like maybe someone has coaching offer or things like that. How can people think about, should I just do organic or should I start putting money behind something? Yeah,
Yeah.
big topic, but I think it's kind of like something that a lot of people are like, should I do this? Can I do this? Can I do it on a small scale?
That's a really good question. And this is something I see a lot of people, there's strong opinions about this.
Hmm.
So, you've got an opinion, I've got an opinion. And I think you can succeed either way,
Yep.
but each one is a different path. So my personal preference is that we start with organic because that is it's like low hanging fruit validation,
Hmm.
right? If we can get people organically interested in what we're doing and make sales that way, then that's an indication that if we go broader and hit colder traffic, that we can still make it work. So what I usually recommend people do, because running traffic is kind of its own skill set, and I mean it's one that you kind of nailed down in the last year, right?
Hmm.
But some people struggle with that. But if you get something going organically, then your first toe dip into paid traffic can just be putting ad spend behind the content you've already created that already
Yep.
works. So
Yep.
I've got some friends who they have a very, very successful organic Instagram following. And what they have done in the last year is simply boosted posts that they see getting tremendous engagement, organic reach, and generating sales. They just boost the post.
Hmm.
They're not doing, they're not doing Facebook ads,
Yep.
right? Uh, but also they get immediate results. Like it works 80-90% of the time because they already know that the copy and creative works because it worked organically. So they put more fuel on the fire. So I think that approach is a good entry level way to get into paid traffic. Like if you have organic content that worked, if you want to go through Facebook Ads Manager, cool. Like just use the creative that works, use the same copy, and then just push it out to more people.
Hmm.
And that saves a lot of time and money doing campaign split testing and optimization, which is kind of the quote unquote right way to do it. And I think at scale, that is absolutely the right way to do it. But when you're just starting up, by only paying to boost things that you already have validated, it saves you a ton of time in the testing phase and a ton of money. So that's my personal opinion. And then like media agency guys are like, that's hogswash. I've had people tell me that's absolutely the wrong way to do it. And they run agencies, right? So maybe they're more qualified. But what I can tell you is, I've done that. I've seen other people use that strategy, and it works. It works well. The friends that I mentioned, they're at a 7-figure run rate, and that is their only paid acquisition right now,
Hmm.
is boosting organic content that already works.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great kind of overview right there. So I don't want to add too much. I'll just give uh maybe an example of the brand I tried to start in the past, a keto brand. This is like a few years ago now. Um, I did some of the kind of organic building in the start, but when I was trying to use paid media to grow an email list. And I know for people maybe going through the sort of launch process of ecom, they're thinking about building that list, which we'll talk about to launch their products to. And it's frustrating growing an email list because it's slow. And so they might think about paid ads, which can work. But my experience was when I tried to put money behind building an email list when I didn't really have something that was working, um, it was expensive and it was not effective. So
Right.
to your point, it can almost be a frustration and a distraction because you're almost skipping a step. Now, yeah, like you said, some people can take cold traffic and they can set up that kind of funnel that does just bring people in. Um, but when you don't have something that's working yet, it can be really frustrating. So get that like spark going, and then you can amplify that with the traffic.
For sure.
So
Yeah, I've seen people run Facebook ads um, to, for email lead capture or to get likes on a Facebook business page. Please don't do that.
yeah, yeah.
And it gives them a false sense of progress, right? They see
Hmm.
this vanity metric. Oh, I have 1,000 email subscribers and they only cost 50 cents each, but they're not factoring in the fact that the quality matters, right? We want 1,000 raving fans. We don't want 1,000 randos who don't even live in a country we ship to.
Yep.
Not helpful. So we need to be, yeah, whenever we're running traffic, we really need to understand what our goals are. And even if we're using, the Facebook AI targeting, like we need to know enough about our ideal customer that the copy and the creative work.
Yep.
Like we got to get the right people in. The worst thing is to pay for the wrong people,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Yeah.
like you're out all this money on ads and you're never going to get a return. And there's a carrying cost for the wrong people, right? You got to pay your email software depending on how many subscribers you have.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yep. 100%. And I think this should be another episode, but there's even this model of like, yeah, can we run traffic to then have analytics? And the analytics is almost like the thing, but then it's like kind of disconnected from like the actual brand and like what's going on. So I've noticed that a little bit. Some people who come from an agency world, they're like, well, which metric do we want to improve? And you're like, why? Why is like we want more like they can
Yeah, the
get lost
metric
in
I want
some of
to
that.
improve is sales,
Yeah, yeah. Anyways,
lifetime
won't
value.
get into that right now, but I think that's a solid take. Um, the next one I've got is why you should start an email list now. And I want you to also take the lead on this. And this is to anyone watching this, if you don't have one yet.
It's the greatest asset you can have for your business. Just flat out, it is.
Mhm.
So, first of all, email. There, I forget who did the study because it's thrown around. You can Google it. But in terms of dollars spent on marketing, the ROI for building an email list is just blows everything else away. Like
Yep.
the money invested in building an email list can return something like 35 times the money you invest.
Mhm.
So again, that doesn't mean run Facebook ads for cheap leads. It means understand what it means to build a quality email list and then put your time and attention and energy into that, right? It's a
Mhm.
high value asset. It allows you to own your audience, right? You can send an email and contact everybody all at once for a promotion or whatever. Like there's a lot of use applications
Mhm.
for the email list, but it's also an insurance policy, right? I have I have a friend who 2 weeks ago got his 8-year old YouTube channel deleted by YouTube
Mhm.
because they didn't like his content. And he had thousands of subscribers, years worth of content on there, gone. But
Mhm.
he had an email list too. And so he's relaunching, he's rebuilding. He was able to very, very quickly pivot and rebuild, but he's not rebuilding from zero. He has thousands of people on the list who can help him to launch the next thing.
Mhm.
I saw a a pretty well-known Twitter creator, got his Instagram account
Yeah.
banned a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago. And he's pissed. And it sounds like it wasn't even valid. There were some shenanigans going on behind the scenes. But this guy, he has audiences on multiple platforms, but he also has an email list. And so losing a social media account with tens of thousands of followers or even hundreds of thousands of followers is not catastrophic if you've got the best people inside of a world that you control, which is email, right?
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'm going to say is it's a much more intimate communication channel than social media, right? I can send an email, and if I do it right, the person receiving it and reading it, it feels like a one-to-one conversation, even though I'm firing it out one to many. And I also have more control over how they consume things, right? When I post stuff on social media, I don't know how, like my stuff is mixed in with everybody else's inside their feed. I don't know if they're going to see them in the order that I posted them, right? I don't have control over all that. But inside of email, I can send message 1 and then message 2, message 3. I can guide people down a path where I want to take them, which for me and most people listening is probably a sale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to sell through email than social media, like exponentially higher conversion rates. So again, we talked about high value skill sets at the beginning. Storytelling, copywriting, email marketing are some of those are near the top of my list. They should be near the top of anybody's list who wants to make money online.
Yep. 100%. I'll make one quick distinction that if someone's starting a brand or they have a brand, they kind of know the email list, like piece of it probably, and that, okay, this is a way to contact my customers. And, obviously even like times like Black Friday, you just see this insane, opportunity to be able to put this offer in front of people who already like your brand, and it's wild. But for someone who maybe doesn't have the brand or they're not sure, they're like, well, I don't have a brand, so I don't have an email list. It's like, no, that's wrong. Start an email list, even if you don't know what you're selling yet, because you will literally learn the skill from doing it. And then when you do have your idea, you're going to have, maybe it's only 50 people, or maybe it's a few thousand people who you talk to every week or a couple times a week that are like, yeah, this is awesome. How do I get on your launch list or buy your product or your coaching? And so this was like a big one for me because it felt so, oh, I can't do that yet, or I don't know how to do it, or I don't know what I'm selling. But I started my first email list on Substack, which is more of a blogging platform, but it's a great place to start if you don't know anything about this, because you can literally write a post like you do on Facebook, and then when you hit publish, it sends to your email list. So it's dead easy. And I started that just as sort of a creative outlet. Somehow Greg ended up on that list. He was one of like a few people because it was a small list, but it was through writing to that list that I think I said I was going to get into copywriting. And Greg ended up reaching out to me with an opportunity that connected me with some more people, some clients. And it was a big deal that these opportunities came about because I'd kind of started that email list, even though I didn't know where it was going.
Yeah,
So it can be small, but you're going to learn the skill, and then it's going to open up opportunities for you. So whether you know what you're doing or not, you could start one today.
absolutely. And I'll just add one final thing to that. If you feel like, oh, I have this brand idea or this product idea or this service idea, and I'll get like that's the thing, and the email list supports it. Yes and no. But I would recommend that you kind of flip flop that and say, what the thing I need to create is an email list. I need to create something that allows me to build credibility, relationship, and rapport with a group of people, because from that group of people, I can launch a service.
Mm-hmm.
From that group of people, I can launch a physical product brand.
Mm-hmm.
There are some of you watching this probably know about big digital newsletters like Morning Brew or The Hustle
Mm-hmm.
or Milk Road. These are media companies, right? But they basically have an email list and they send out regular content to the list. They make tens of millions of dollars a year selling advertising inside of their platform because they have a relationship with their readers. Now, I think about my email list, my personal email list, Email Magic, as a media company. And it's me building relationships with people. And from that list, I sell my services. From that list, I'm going to launch physical product brands, right? That are their own assets, right? Their own thing, their own businesses that could be sold. But I'm going to keep, like, the list is the thing I control. That is my personal asset. And I can create new assets from that thing.
Yep.
So that's the way I like to think about this. My personal email list, people that follow Greg Johnson, I can create all kinds of different new businesses and opportunities and assets from that. But the core thing that I'm building is that list, because it creates, like, that is the genesis of everything else that I could do.
Yep.
So it's not that the list exists because I want to sell a course or a coaching package. Those things can exist because I have the list.
Yep. Yeah. And Greg's list is quality. One final story on the email thing, and we'll jump to the last one, I think. But when I was getting into copywriting, I was doing a bunch of projects for Greg and some of the people on his list, who a lot of whom are building e-com brands or building different offers out. And I literally, like, I was early on in my journey and I needed some extra cash before the end of the month. So I kind of gambled and I said, Greg, can we put together maybe an offer that we promote to your list? Like, I can do a reduced rate on some email flows. And, this is something I can do well, but let's see if we can put together an offer that people would jump on. So I can kind of pay my rent. And we put that together, and in a matter of a few hours, we have a few people raising their hand, clicking a link and saying they want that and paying for that. And that's simply because you have that list, that asset built.
Yeah.
So it's like a well that you both put into in the content, but then you can draw from when need be. So that was kind
Absolutely.
of a interesting, kind of a fun
Yeah,
story.
I love that. I love that story. It was a great experience. I think for both of us, because I remember we put that offer together. We were collaborating inside of a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And I think we worked it up in like 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, let's try it out. And we sent it out. And within 24 hours, you had some money in PayPal.
Yeah. So that's why I also want friends who have email lists as well. But awesome. The last one I have, what do I have here? Uh, we got the email list. Actually, that was my last one on my end. So if you have a bonus one to throw in, um, that's great. And otherwise, maybe we'll end it here.
All right. I'm going to throw out a bonus one because a lot of people, again, it's that fear of taking the first step. They're like, well, I'm not going to worry about sending an email. I only have 5 subscribers. I'm not going to go to the trouble of writing an email for
Right.
them. You should, like, when you only have 5 subscribers, spoil the hell out of those people. When you only have 100 subscribers, spoil the hell out of those people. I'm still doing this. When I get people who sign up for my premium subscription, it's a paid subscription, I'm making them a custom personalized Loom video telling them how thankful I am that they signed up and what they can expect. And I'm just going to just ridiculously over deliver. And they're paying $10 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I'm going to the trouble. This is not something that I could probably do if I had 10,000 of them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I learned from one of my mentors is especially when you're first starting out, do the unscalable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So many people, when they're starting out, they're like, oh, well, I don't want to do that because I can't scale it. And it's like, can I curse on this channel?
Yeah.
Um, it's like, bitch, you haven't sold anything yet. You don't have any customers.
You don't have
Don't
anything to
worry
scale.
about don't worry about scale yet. Do the unscalable. B, provide ridiculous value to those first 5 people, to the first 100 people, to the first 1,000 people, right? And when you get to a breaking point, then you figure out, do you need to pivot this to somebody else, or not do it anymore at all? But by by ridiculously over-serving the people at the beginning, it helps you get to the point where you have to make decisions about, can I keep doing this or not?
Mhm.
So, right, like send your email to 5 people. It's not going to be very good because, after you've written 100 emails, you'll be better than when you're first starting out. But you can't get to the 100th email if you don't send the first.
Mhm.
So people come up with all these excuses and reasons for why they can't start today. And like choosing not to start, to like putting off the decision one more day, one more week, that is in itself a decision that's going to impact your life in a year, right? If
Yeah.
you put this off for a week, it means you're going to be in a different place in 51 weeks than if you just got started. So really, like the first step is to throw the excuses out the door. They're all just excuses, and take fast, messy action and start learning what this is like.
Mhm.
That's it.
Love it. So there's some homework for anyone who doesn't have an email list. Do you still have, I'm throwing this at you, but is there a resource you have for that? Or is that a paid product? Or is that even up still? Like
For what? To get
building an
started?
email list? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I created a course last month about building a high quality list. So where the goal is not to get a whole bunch of subscribers, but to get the right subscribers, even if that means a smaller list moving slower. Because if we have 1,000 people and that list generates $20 per subscriber per month, that's 20 grand a month.
Mhm.
And those are numbers that my lists have hit.
Mhm.
$20 per subscriber per month.
Mhm.
A typical like mass email list is more like 50 cents to $1 per
Mhm.
subscriber
Mhm.
per month. So it's like you either need a whole bunch of lower quality people or a small number of high quality people. So I created a course talking about how to get the high quality people. To be honest, it's available somewhere on my site. I don't have the
Okay.
link right now, but really, before anybody buys anything from me, they should make sure they like my job, my style, and my
Let's get on the email list. Yeah.
get on the email list. That's where we start. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. If I don't like you, I'll unsubscribe you.
Yeah.
But if things work out, you can buy stuff later on.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's a wrap for this one. We'll link Greg's newsletter slash website below, and then probably just my Twitter. And um, I'll link my email guide too, because I do have an informal list that I've resurrected. It's sort of a marketing off the cuff thing about what I'm doing. So I'll link
Yeah.
that as well. It's
Is
free.
is that the thing you have on Gumroad?
Yeah.
I sent that to some people and they loved it. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah, people like if you want to get started, like Ben has something very actionable, and
Yeah.
it's like, what is it, like $1?
That's free right now.
It's
So
free. Oh yeah,
yeah,
just
it's
go get it,
donation.
man.
It's donation based. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
people should go
free.
pick that up. They got to
It's
pick that
free.
up.
And yeah, it's helpful. People said it's helpful, so I'll link it and we'll leave it all down there. So, oh, and hit the like and subscribe stuff. I know that's annoying when people say that, but it does help. So, thanks for everyone who clicked that on the last one and we will see you guys next week. Peace.
Later.